Welcome back, beautiful people. I know y'all like, what is she doing? We're doing a double whammy. What do you call it? Like a double or something? I don't know. I don't watch baseball, but I know it's called something. So we're doing a double today, and I'm glad that these beautiful ladies decided to go live because I'm giving them an option. I'm telling them like, listen, we can do a live show. Let's just go. And they decided to go live. It's like really warming my heart. So I have another guest. So y'all know how I am when it comes to guests. I'm always excited, even though I will stay up here for a whole hour or two or three and talk to myself with nobody talking back to me. It's okay. It's all good for me. But for you, it's always good to get some knowledge from somebody else. So I'm going to bring my guest up. Her name is Kahryn, and she's going to give us the Nervous System 101 chat. Please, 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 if you would like to comment, ask some questions, I'm sure she wouldn't mind. Hello, love. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on your show today.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to the show. So let's get right into it. Tell the people your name, where you're from, and what you do.
Yes, so hi, I'm Kahryn Eipl, and I have a health and wellness practice in Oceanside, California. So that's North County, San Diego. And I offer Reiki, sound therapy, and also emotional support coaching. And then I've combined all of them and created a method called the neuroresonance method. And that uses cognitive behavioral therapeutic techniques as well as Reiki and sound healing. So not only are we targeting just the mindset of the issue, we're also getting down into the energetics and really seeking to help calm the nervous system.
Right, right.
And I do this virtually as well. So if you're not in San Diego, we can still work virtually.
I was just about to ask that question. So before the titles, the certificates, like what made you decide like this is what I want to do?
Well, when I first started my career, I was actually working in entertainment as a project manager.
Mhm.
So I didn't set out thinking that I was going to go onto the spiritual side of things with Reiki and sound healing. I do have a background in psychology, and initially I was studying to become a clinical psychologist. And then the closer that I got to graduation, my senior year, we went to a mental wellness facility, and all of the patients there were just like walking around. You could see that they were kind of out of it, but it wasn't just what was going on in their mind. It felt like they were in a trance and they were on this huge long list of medications. And I decided then that I didn't want to be a part of that. I
Right.
didn't want to do that to people. I thought there was a better way. And that's when I decided that I was going to shift and focus my efforts on entertainment. So I had been working in entertainment for about 10 years before I just got so burnt out and worn out with the long hours, the changes in schedules. I started to become a little bit bitter and resentful of it because I wasn't fulfilled anymore. I was also battling with the feeling of feeling like I was a failure for walking away from something I worked so hard to get. And,
Right.
um, and so that led me to on a downward spiral. I became depressed. I started drinking more, smoking more.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I started going to therapy more seriously that I realized that I needed more. I needed more than just talk therapy because
Right.
that alone wasn't helping me. Sometimes it was making me get a little bit more aggravated.
Right. Right.
Uh, and at the time, I had just started doing a yoga teacher training as well. And that's when I got exposed to Reiki and sound therapy. So I started doing both of those things alongside my therapy sessions for a while. And then it got to a point where I stopped going to therapy and I went back to school to get a certification to become a cognitive behavioral therapy life
Right.
coach. So I started doing that mindset work on myself while doing my Reiki and sound as well.
Okay. Okay. Your story is so similar to mine of how
Really?
like I'm like so serious. I was going to school to be a therapist, and I was in
Mhm.
class and we're learning about the medications and we're learning about all this stuff, and I was just like, I don't want to do this to people. Like I was like, I don't want to do this to people. And so I started to pay attention um to different medications and what they were doing to people because I worked in like mental facility already just as a caregiver. And
Okay.
I just didn't like it. I was like, and I worked with children. So that was kind of hard for me to see them or to have to hold them down while they get a shot. And I was
Oh,
like, there has to be something else that we can do
yeah.
other than this. And that kind of was like the start of my journey before I even knew I was going to get into doing Reiki and sound healing and um, just a bunch of different stuff. It kind of was like the okay, no no we don't have to live like zombies in this space. Um, from someone who has never heard of the term nervous system regulation, what does that really mean in everyday life?
So nervous system regulation is how are you responding to things in your day-to-day situation? That means that you're able to check in with your emotions. You can check in with your physical body for those emotional cues that are happening. And you also know how to work with the emotions rather than let the emotions escalate and become a reaction, right? So,
Right.
nervous system regulation, the best way to think about it is respond versus react, right? Because when we're so caught up in our emotions, like say someone gets us mad, then it's easy for us to start elevating our energy, maybe start yelling, right? And that is a reaction. But now, if to respond to that, someone makes you angry, you can take a few breaths, acknowledge what you're feeling, and then either ask a clarifying question to that person or state how that made you feel. Like, okay,
Right.
when you did this, it made me upset because, and state your piece,
State
right?
your piece. Right. Right. Okay. Okay. How do you know how do we know, right, that our nervous system is dysregulated? Because I think people don't really know, like they know, but then they don't know. So what would be like some telltale signs like your nervous system is like on the fritz?
So a dysregulated nervous system can look a few different ways. You could be, chronically tired, have fatigue. You could also have a lot of stress and just feel like you're essentially running from one thing to the next without having any sort of pause.
Mhm.
Um, there can also be physical symptoms, like maybe you're getting headaches frequently, feeling just depleted even though you're sleeping. Like if you get a good night, like a full 8 hours of sleep, and you still wake up and you're feeling groggy and tired, like you didn't sleep, that's a good indicator that your nervous system is dysregulated.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes, depending on the degree of it, people's will start losing their hair, like your hair will come out faster than it normally should. Uh,
Mhm.
Cortisol levels rise, so you might just feel very jittery too, like you
Right.
always need to be doing something.
Right. Like you need to be moving around a little bit. Um, I know like like sometimes people think that there's personality flaws within their nervous system. As I've heard a lot of people talk about, oh, I think that this person has a disrupted personality flaw because they're a procrastinator. Like they procrastinate. Some people just procrastinate though. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, some people just have that in their as one of their traits that they procrastinate. It
Right.
can also be a sign of anxiety because
Mm,
there is that desire of, well, I want it to be perfect and I'm not going to start it unless I know that I can finish it, or I'm not going to start it until I get XYZ, and then I know that it'll create a perfect finished product.
right.
Um, so sometimes in those instances, it can be a little hard to say, like, if you're only looking at procrastination, it can be hard to define, oh, you have a dysregulated nervous system
Right.
because you're procrastinating all the time. Some people, even when their nervous system is fully regulated and stable to the best that they can be, they're still gonna procrastinate because that is just something that was a
That's
learned
great,
behavior.
right? Right. So you had a question. Someone asked the question, what are some of the causes of a disrupted? Like what causes this for our nervous system to go kind of a little haywire or off balance?
And that's a great question. Well, so first, a regulated nervous system is when you feel safe and comfortable in a situation. And
Right.
so something that is going to dysregulate your nervous system, it will disrupt that safety. It'll make you feel a little unstable. Um, Say that you're working a project and you think you've done a really good job, and then the next day you hear your boss wants to take you into the office,
Right.
and maybe you get lectured on something that you did incorrectly or you could have done more effectively,
Right.
and that can be disruptive to your nervous system because here you were thinking that you did it, and now you have someone telling you, oh, you actually did it wrong. um,
Mm,
Being in a high stressful environment can also cause nervous system dysregulation. A lot of times, if you have people around you who are kind of flip flop their decisions and their emotions, that can be dysregulating to you because you can think that you checked in with them once and you know where they are, and then all of a sudden they've done a 180 and you're like, well, now I'm confused. Which
right.
one? Which one is it?
Like what am I? So, and that's why I tell a lot of people, like sometimes, certain things, it doesn't have to happen at childhood or during trauma. It could happen like today, like
Mhm.
do this show and then you could get off the show and somebody can be like, oh yeah, I think there was something on your eye, and now you're like, what?
Yeah, and I'm like, "I thought I looked flawless."
And you get in the comments like something's on my eye. So
Mhm.
it kind of like disrupts you a little bit. And I think
Yeah.
we could deal with them in the moment, but you have to identify, right?
Right.
That this kind of like took you off balance. Why do you think? Why do people repeat the same unhealthy relationships or patterns?
It's often a learned trait
Mhm.
from their past, whether it's a trauma, something that happened to them when they were a kid, teen, or also just how relationships or a specific thing was modeled to them throughout their lives by people that they value, that they put in high regard. So you think like that's the way to do something and you just keep doing it, and eventually you start to see that it is not helpful and it's causing the same pattern. And that's when it becomes time to really ask yourself, okay, all of these patterns that I'm seeing in my life, what do they have in common? They have me in common. So what happened with each one? And
Right.
also, am I ready to really shine the light and look at this part of myself and change it? Because I 100% believe that you do have the ability to change a pattern. You don't have to do that the same way every single time in your life, right? And continue to repeat that.
Mm,
It's identifying the patterns and asking yourself if you're ready and willing to change them.
absolutely. Absolutely, like asking yourself. So you would say like the very important thing is to kind of like before you said just take that pause and
Mhm.
ask yourself like, is there something that I can do to change this? I see the pattern. How often do you think a person should ask themselves, like when they see patterns, how often do you think it would take them to get into that phase to where they start changing?
That is different for many people. So some people, right when they acknowledge the pattern, they're ready. They're like, "Oh, I see. Okay, let's work on this because I don't want to change it."
Right.
Some people will see the pattern and go, "But yeah, okay, is it really actually like bad? I don't know. Uh,
Right.
I'm just gonna keep doing my life." And then they the pattern keeps happening and they come back to it and they're like, "Oh, so maybe this is unhelpful." Uh,
Right.
so everybody is different. And then some people are also brought to um to the awareness of the pattern by other people in their life, like friends, significant others. People may point it out to them and say, "Hey, are you aware that when we start to have a serious conversation, you kind of shut down and don't share your feelings?"
Right.
And at that point, it's up to them to decide if they're ready to see it, right?
Hmm. Very true. Very true. So, in the beginning of the show, you said that you have a method, a her method, the neuro, and I'm going to say this wrong. I'm probably going to get it wrong again. Renaissance,
Neur-
Renaissance,
Neuroresonance method.
neuro resonance method.
Yes. Do
You
you
have a different method that you use, that you created, that like this works for you and possibly works for your, like for your clients or the people that you engage with. What is this method that you use?
Right. So it involves a combination of three different modalities, which is the coaching, primarily with cognitive behavioral therapy. We'd use IFS, internal family systems, as well.
Hmm.
Then Reiki and sound therapy. So the whole point of this method is that when you have made the decision that you're ready to work on a pattern, whether that's a mindset, thought process, or a behavior that you're ready to shift, then this is the method that we'll use to identify what your thoughts are, what your just automatic thoughts are. I have a thought tracker that I provide. And when you get triggered into a situation, you'll write down what what happened, what you were feeling, what your automatic thoughts were. Then it goes into looking for evidence that those thoughts are true because our brain wants to find the evidence that supports our beliefs.
Right.
And a lot of times what we find with those like self-sabotaging thoughts, self-doubt, self-worth,
Right.
there's not a lot of evidence that is true for those. So
Right.
then we seek evidence that supports the opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
There's usually, almost always, a longer list for that. Then, using that evidence, we create a thought that is more supportive for where what your goals are, where you want to go. And so then the process then becomes when you think that automatic thought, say, "Oh, I'm not worthy, I'm not smart enough," you now have this new thought of, "I'm very capable, I'm intelligent, I have, succeeded multiple times in my career and have awards and certifications that show
Right.
how smart I am, so I am capable," right? So you can use that thought to replace it with the negative one. And as we continue, that will also show us some pattern recognition of when certain events happen, it'll trigger an emotional response. That emotional response will trigger a thought process. So we'll continue to keep doing this process.
Right.
And I also provide a journal called the Power Affirmation Journal. And that is a way to track your intentions, bring awareness, and also identify if you have any points of resistance
Right.
into creating this new version. Because a lot of times when you're working on shifting your mindset or changing your beliefs, there is going to be resistance, not because you don't want it, simply because it's new and it's scary. You don't know what that is going to shift your life into being. And
Right.
we get comfortable where we are because we know it. Even if we might be suffering or in pain emotionally, we tend to stay there a little bit longer because we know it. And that, creates safety. So, venturing out of that safety bubble, there will be some resistance to work through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also why I've added Reiki and sound therapy into this method,
Right.
because you can talk about your issues, you could talk about all the change and transformation you want to make, and what you don't process, the body holds on to.
Mm-hmm.
You know this with all of the Reiki and sound therapy that you do.
And I think it's important. We have like very similar, even though you're in California and I'm here in Florida, we have very similar like program, So dealing with the mindset and dealing with the sound healing, the Reiki, affirmations. I love that you talked about your power journal. I think that's a beautiful thing because I feel like sometimes people don't understand like the words that you speak out loud and then the thoughts that you have. Not only do the words you speak over your life, change and alter, but the thoughts that you have change and alter too. So you
Mhm.
have to learn how to control your thoughts. But I thought it was very significant because I always get like when I get new clients, they are always resistant. And so sometimes they even get like to the resistant point to where they're like a little bit snazzy with me, and I'm like, wait a minute. But I realized that it's not the resistance that you're not resistant doing it on purpose. What's
Right.
happening is this is something new. This is something fresh. You never did this before, and you don't know what the outcome of this is going to be.
Right. And that resistance is a defense mechanism,
Mhm.
right? It's not that that person is so resistant that they don't want to do the work at all. It's just their mind is like, hey, this is new. What
Right.
is this? Are you sure that this is going to help? Are you sure this is, going to provide safety for us? So
Right.
it's working through that mental block, right? Because that defense mechanism shows up as a protector.
Mhm. That's what it is, and we love to protect ourselves, even if it's
Mhm.
protecting ourselves from good things. For skeptics who are listening, how like how sound actually how does sound actually affect the brain scientifically, in your opinion?
So it activates the alpha and theta brain waves. So already that's putting you in a state right above REM sleep. So
Mhm.
when you get into that state, you may notice that you're kind of going in and out of consciousness. It may feel like you're dreaming, yet you're completely aware of what is happening. So one, it's putting you in a more relaxed state where you feel already more comfortable. Your body and your mind are starting to open up more. So it's taking away that resistant aspect, right? Also, the alpha and theta brainwave can be referred to as the problem solving phase.
Mhm.
Uh, and so, an example of that is how you have an issue that you've just been thinking about, you've been fixating on it for weeks, maybe even a month, and you're like, well, what do I do? And when you think about it, you don't get a solution. You
Right.
just keep working and overthinking into, all of the possible scenarios, but you don't have a direction. Then
Right.
you go and do something. Maybe you go on a beach walk with a friend and you just allow yourself to have fun. You're not even thinking about it. And then all of a sudden, when you least expect it, you get this little aha moment like, oh, that's what I should do.
Right.
Okay. That was so
Right.
easy. Uh, and that's what can happen a lot of times in a sound healing session is the things that you have been working so hard to figure out all of a sudden just seemingly start to fall into place. You get little clues on what to do.
Right. Right. And then I always tell people, so I tell them it's not only that sound, and it doesn't even have to be bowls. It could be, chimes. It could be
Right.
any kind of sound. It could be like a drum. It starts to open things up in the brain first. And then once it starts opening those things up in the brain, now here comes the body because the body has to get into subjection because
Mhm.
the brain tells the body what to do.
Right.
So, and so once the body starts getting into subjection, now here comes the heart. So then
Mhm.
now there's an opening up of your heart. Now that's a whole nother space. And you are in that trance. And it does help you make uh, when you leave a sound session, you usually can go out and make a decision, like a solid decision, like, okay, yeah, I should do that. I should
Right.
be there, or this is my moment. Um,
Mhm.
have you seen moments where someone changed in one session that shocked you?
I have yes, I've seen people open up to the process a lot faster than what I was anticipating,
Mhm.
and it's always beautiful when that happens because that is someone who's just so ready. They've surrendered all disbelief
Right,
and they're full-fledged embracing what's coming. Um, I have so another benefit to sound healing is it is supportive if you have any physical pain, whether it's chronic pain, maybe you even have joint inflammation, high blood pressure. So I have had a lot of people come in with pain or inflammation in the body, and after a session, they're like, "My body feels great. It feels so good."
right,
I've also had clients come in and, the first time that it happened, uh, with one client, it was our first time working together, and she had had surgery on one of her ankles
right,
before, and she decided that she didn't wanna tell me that at the beginning, and we go through our Reiki session, and I could sense that her ankle was off, so I spent a lot of time working with it, and it almost felt like it was in pain, and so I keep working with it throughout the session, and at the end of the session, we're checking in, we're doing our, decompression, and she looks at me and she's like, my ankle feels better." Like,
right,
and she even, like, moved and she's like, "I actually have more range of motion in it." She's like, "So I didn't tell you this before because I kinda wanted to see if this was legit, um, but a few years ago, I had a really intense surgery on my ankle, and I have metal plates in there and
right,
screws." And she's like, "So it always kinda, like, makes a noise and is a little swollen." She's like, "But when I move it now, it's not even making a sound."
right, right, right. I think that is so funny that she did that. I always wonder, like, why do people want to try? Like, it works because we've done this to you before. But then they want to try, like they're like, I didn't tell you such and such, but now I always have my clients do that to me all the time. I was like, I can feel it. Like I'm telling you, this Reiki, this sound, these tools, they really, really work. We
Mhm.
didn't I didn't ask you, but I wanted to know because I did write it in my notes. How do CBT, Reiki, and sound healing work together?
They are such a beautiful trio because the CBT is asking you to bring awareness to what your patterns are with your thoughts.
Mhm.
Once we've identified what your automatic thoughts are, we've looked at the evidence of what's supporting them. We go a little bit further and we try to figure out where they come from, right? And
Right.
so sometimes people know exactly where they came from. Oh, this moment when I was a teenager, this thing happened and I've been holding on to it since.
Right.
Some people have no idea why they have that thought because they've suppressed it. They've done their best to block it out.
Right.
And the sound, like we were saying, relaxes the mind, right? It eases the mind. So we're letting that guard down, that conscious guard. We're we're letting him take a rest. And
Uh-huh.
then the body starts to follow suit and relax. And the Reiki gets in and you can see where in the body they're holding these things. And I'm sure you may have had this happen in sessions with clients as well, where all of a sudden they're back in a memory
Mhm.
from something that they forgot in their childhood.
Right.
And that's when we've did it. We found the root. Oh, this is why you have that thought. It is from this moment.
Right.
Okay. Now let's work with this energy and help move it out of the body, right? And replace it with this new thought, this new goal that we're working towards.
Hmm. I
So,
think that is I think that is like a great I think that's a great how you explain it is really good. And I think that that breaks it down for people a little bit to understand what is happening because how do you deal with it when you get like someone who has never had CBT, Reiki, sound, or anything that is remotely a little bit I'll say quote unquote unorthodox because this isn't like like when it comes to practitioners, some practitioners will say, well, you guys can't even take insurance.
right.
So how do you feel in those moments? Because we know that this works. But how does that make you feel?
That just is where the person's at, right? And so if they don't feel that this is something that they're ready for or they're very skeptical, I will, check in with them and see like is where is the skepticism coming from? What are the initial thoughts when you hear about this? Um, and the if they wanna give it a shot, great, like, I'll offer them just 1 session to see if it's something they're interested in, how they feel with it,
Right,
and if they decide that they wanna do a pack of multiple sessions after that one, we'll factor the first one into that, right? So they're not just, um, paying for more, but we're gonna make that session included, um, and sometimes people are just like, "No, I'm not open for that, like, I'd rather see a therapist." I'm like, "Okay, great. That is your prerogative, because 'cause
right,
I'm not here to force anyone to do the work. I'm not here to prove that my method is the best,
right,
right? I know that it works if you're open to it because I have done it on myself. I continue to do it on myself when I find other things that I wanna shift and change, and
right.
I've seen it work with other people as well. So, if you're open to it, beautiful, and if not, then okay. You will find the thing that you resonate with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I believe that. I think that is the space that um most of us sit in. It's kind of like it will resonate with some and some won't. And I've had people like I've had people say no, and then they come back and it's like, let me just try one thing. What is the easiest thing? And I'm thinking like everything's easy. But how about we start with some drums?
Right.
Let's just start with the drums. And I'm gonna let you tap the drums and you see
Mhm.
how it makes your body feel. Um, so that is good. Have you seen moments in like in your business or in connecting with people where this brings them into a different space of religion or spirituality, or this becomes an awakening for them?
Absolutely. I have definitely seen that many times. Um, and that I feel is because they're meeting a part of themselves that they didn't know existed, right? They're starting to learn that they are so much more than what they were taught initially, and it opens up the world of energy. And when you realize that everything's comprised of energy, we are energetic beings ourselves.
Right.
So if we can learn how to work with the energy to help shift our vibrations, then we have a lot more say in this and in our lives, right? And I've also seen transformations going off of what you had said earlier about how words are important. What you say and what you think about yourself will be reflected back to you.
Absolutely.
So once you start making that shift and saying other things, and you're looking for the evidence that all of that is true, and that's giving you a boost even more because you're seeing how the energy around you is responding. And
Absolutely.
if people don't have a religious practice or a spiritual practice, that can be enough to open the doors into that curiosity, right?
Right.
Um, so I've seen that a lot, and I always think that that's beautiful transformation when they connect so much to something like that that they've now taken it on their own.
Right, right. They've said, I like this and I like the way this makes me feel. And I
Mm.
want to regulate my system more than just, once in a while. Now, this system that you run, is this like 20 sessions, 1 hour, or how does the time go with this? So if someone was interested and they're like, hey, listen, I want to book a session. What would be their requirement for them, or what's the time for them?
So right now I have it in packages, so we could just do a one-off session, which would be an hour. Um, and that's just kind of dipping the feet wet, seeing how you feel about the method, and also identifying where you are now, what your goals are,
Absolutely.
and laying out a little path on how to get there.
Right.
Then I have packs of 3 sessions, 6 sessions, or 9 sessions. So the way that it's structured is for in the 3 session, you would get 1 hour of coaching, 1 hour of Reiki, and 1 hour of sound. Then if you do 6, then you're getting 2 of each of those things, and if you do 9, you're getting 3 of each of those things.
Right, right, which is a beautiful thing because, like, you come for that 1 hour of coaching, and then the next time you come for that 1 hour of Reiki, and then
Mhm.
the next time you come, you're coming for that 1 hour of sound, and so then you get to decide, like, "Okay, I liked everything that just happened." You know? So
Right.
I can come back for that 6 now. I'm getting 2 hours, of each thing, which is a greater support. And I know like something like this would depend on the person. It's not a certain time limit. And then there are things that can
Right.
happen after you, like, say you get through the first thing, that first layer, but in that second layer, there may be another trauma or trigger that you didn't know about.
Right.
So now we have to get through that part too, because I always tell people like regulating the nervous system, healing, it's all
Mhm.
a layered thing. And so you start on the inside, which means you start at that young child and then you come out. But from that young child, there could be so much, but then from adolescence, there could be a lot more than from the young child.
Exactly. And healing is, beautiful in the fact that there are those surprises and you don't know what you're going to get or how many different things there will be to work through once you start, peeling back the layers of the flour, right?
Right.
Um, and so that's why I wanted flexibility with these packages, because that also gives time so that you can work through it on your own. Of course, you can always reach out to me in the interim of these sessions for support or guidance on where to go next, right? You have the tools of the thought tracker and the power affirmation journal to work with at your own speed. And so
Right.
those are tools that I highly suggest and encourage clients to use in between sessions, because that's going to take what you get, especially in the energy sessions with Reiki and sound.
Right.
You're going to peel back even more patterns and unearth things from your past that you didn't know. And the one of the freedoms of that journal is you get to release the things that you're not ready for. So there's a section where you get to choose what you're letting go of, which is a very powerful situation. That's being able to take your power back and say, no, I'm not going to stand for this.
Right. I was just about to say, I was going to say, I love that because that's giving you the power to take your power back and say, nope, that's not the way. And that kind of takes me into my next question. What's toxic positivity and why is it dangerous in a healing space?
Toxic positivity is no matter what's going on in your life, you're finding a way to make it great or to make it look great,
Right.
right? So, say, you just lost your job and you're like, "It's okay. Like, yeah, I lost my job, something else is gonna happen." Like, full trust. Maybe the reason you lost your job is because there was something going on with your attitude in the workplace,
Hmm.
right? And if you're not willing to look at that and you're just bypassing it by saying, "Oh no, it's like I didn't want to work there anyway, and the next best thing's gonna come along,"
Right.
and that's a band-aid that is protecting you from seeing the underlying issue. Okay, well, what is going on with, your attitude or the way that you're coming off with people? Are you acting defensive,
Right.
right? So, toxic positivity is a way that you can bypass healing, but it's not even, you're not getting past anything. You're just stuck at that level because you don't want to acknowledge that there is something deeper. There is something in you that is wanting attention, is
Right.
wanting to be addressed, right? So you're just allowing yourself to skirt around it. Maybe you see it at points, but then you'll use that positivity to be like, well, that's just who I am. And I embrace myself for who I am no matter what.
And that I feel that way, and I always laugh because I'm like, wait a minute, I probably was like the same way. And toxic positivity is like very strange, or that I'm just set in my ways. Oh, this is who I am. But why are you that person? What happened
Mhm.
to make you, handle situations the way that you? Because that's not a good way to handle it. But until you see the version of yourself that you are and decide that you want to change, you'll continue in those, in those different patterns. But I thought it was funny that you mentioned that one time, um, when I was looking through the notes, I was like, oh, let's talk about this toxic positivity, because I think that people forget, that it's okay to be positive and it's okay to wait for the next big thing to happen. But then you still have to be accountable to, maybe this happened because something else happened,
Right.
something that you did. And then, like, let's accept that so we can move forward. Um,
Mhm.
Next thing. How do you help people feel safe in their own bodies again?
That comes with really identifying what state their nervous system is in as
Mm.
we're working together,
Right.
um, because then we'll know where we need to go to move towards that safety in the physical body. Because some people may feel safe in their body, but they're not safe in their mind, right?
Absolutely.
So when there's a disconnection, it's understanding the parts first. Okay, what's going on in the head? What's going on in the mind? Okay, how does the heart feel?
Right.
Can we touch into the heart? What does the heart want for you? And as we're working through creating those new patterns, then we're finding a way to connect all three of those, the
Right.
mind, body, and the heart, so that you can create a sense of feeling comfortable in all different areas, right? Because we shouldn't have our minds shouldn't be working against us. Our body shouldn't be the enemy, right?
Right.
Um, and our heart wants us to be happy
Absolutely.
and live full and follow our desires, our goals, whatever they may be. So we want to remind I I remind everybody that all of these parts of us are ultimately friends, right? They might be friends that are having a fight, and then we're going to hold space to hear each one and then have a little um, coming together moment where we give each one the space and say, I want to work with you. I want to be your friend. I want to stay connected
Mhm.
and know that we're all on each other's sides, right?
Right. Right. Very positive. Very positive. And I have one more question for you before I let you take the stage and share anything else that we didn't share. And if that journal is for sale, make sure you share where they can get that journal from because you did not mention that part to me. So make sure that they get the information for that. But what's one simple nervous system reset someone could do today? Like if they're at home and they realize, like, hey, I would love to get in touch with Captain, but I know I'm not going to be able to get an appointment tomorrow. But what is one thing that they can do? Just a simple reset.
So one of my favorite resets is taking taking a pause and going back to your breath. I like to do the 5, 7, 8 breath. So that's where you're inhaling for 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You hold it for 7,
Mhm.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you exhale for 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you can do that a few times. If the counting is too much for you, because when I started doing this, it was just a lot for me to focus on was breathing and counting,
Right.
then take an inhale as long as you can and make your exhale even longer than that. Because when you're exhaling longer than you're inhaling, you're already activating the parasympathetic nervous system, which is that relaxation response, right? That's moving you out of the fight or flight and into the rest and digest phase. So, inhaling as long as you can, exhaling even longer than that.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, first, again, I would just love to thank you for coming on the show. Is there anything that we did not talk about or cover about your business? Like, and also where people can contact you per se if they want to set up a session because you do online sessions and in-person sessions.
Yes.
This is your time.
Thank you. So, first, you can find me and all of my offerings on my website, eiplhealing.com. And you can also find me on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook under my handle EIPL Healing, Eipl Healing. And if you're interested in getting a Reiki session or just a sound therapy session or just coaching, I do those a la carte as well. If you're interested in the method, of course, there's that. You can book a free consultation through my website. And so I know that I'd mentioned the Power Affirmation Journal, and I supply it when we're working with the neuroresonance method. If you have heard it and you want to buy it, you can go to finkelhoot.com and purchase it from her shop. So my friend Betsy has created the journal, and finkelwho.com is her website where you can buy it. It is about $24.99. So, and I will send the link to you so that you can.
Yeah, I was gonna say, send me the link so when I post your show onto the other platforms, they can have the link there just to tap on that link if they want to go and just explore the journal. Sometimes people like to look at the product before they purchase another product, meaning
Of
they'll look at the
course.
journal and they'll be like, oh, I need a session. I need a full session. Again, Kahryn, thank you for being on the show and just sharing a special part of yourself. Please, please, everyone, go to her platforms and follow. Go to that website, check out her sessions, book a consultation because sometimes you may think you don't need something and you actually do need something. And sometimes a consultation helps you do that because just watching the show is giving you that introduction of who she is. But that consultation, you get the introduction more of who she is and then how she can support you. And that's always great. Anything else, Kahryn, before you give us something very special? It could be a nugget, a quote, something to take the people to the next day, the next level, or just something to help them make it through today.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me on your show and allowing me to just share this, special part and talk about the nervous system. And so something that I will leave you all with is we don't know everyone's story. We don't know that the day that they've had, right? So when you notice yourself starting to get, annoyed, frustrated with somebody else, like remind yourself that you have no idea where they're coming from in their day, right? So even though my last name is Eipl, I've created it into an acronym, and that's every individual person is love healing. And that became a mantra for me when I was working through my own journey because it was so colored by where I was in my mind that I would put that on other people. I'm like, I can't do that. I don't know anything about where they're at. I don't know why someone just cut me off in traffic. They could be rushing to get to a sick family member or to pick up their kid from, school, or maybe someone in their family got hurt and they're going to tend to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just reminding yourself every individual person is love and we're all working on our own healing in some aspect.
Right. I love that. I love that you turned your name into an acronym. That's beautiful. And a
Thank
good one
you.
too. So that was great. Again, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for your time. Um, definitely send me those the links so that I can post those links on the other platforms so that we can have them. And as always, people, thank you for tuning in to Zip Back Motivation Show. Please, please, please make sure you tune into the show. If you don't get it here, 101.5 Philly Vibe will be on Tuesday and every other platform if you feel like you missed something. Because I know sometimes people are in and out. And sometimes you listen to half and you go back and listen to the other half. But listen to the whole show. Write down her information. If not, it will be linked. So then you'll be able to click on everything. Good day, everyone. Have a beautiful Sunday. And thank you for going live automatically. I forgot to say that part. So, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Good day, everyone.